first right. So today I'm going to talk about Final Fantasy. So what is Final Fantasy? Well, it's a game that you can play on like multiple consoles. There are 13 main titles, but each game has no correlation to the other in terms of plot line, except a few exceptions. Basically, the genre is fantasy role-playing game, but over time it's divided into several subgenres like tactical role-playing, action role-playing, mass multiplayer online role-playing games, racing, and third-person shooter. So how exactly did it start? Well, the first game came out on December 18, 1989, so the majority of you guys weren't even born yet. And what happened was Hironobu Sakaguchi was running a company called Square, but the thing was it was going into bankruptcy, so he decided to make one last game and called it Final Fantasy, final being because it was going to be the final game his company created. But because it suddenly became successful, his company didn't fail, and so then they started continuing the Final Fantasy franchise. And on April 1st, 2003, they merged with another company called Enix, and then now they call themselves Square Enix. So in total, there are around 13 main titles, and within those, there's two games that have part 2s. Final Fantasy X, which came out in 2003, and Final Fantasy 13, which came out last year. And all these are the title, the title art. As you can see, there's one for each game. So there are some major turning points within this franchise. First, Final Fantasy being, the start of the franchise. Then there was the Final Fantasy IV, which started a new gameplay style called Active Time Battle, which I'll discuss in the next slide. And then there was Final Fantasy VII, which converted the graphics from 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional. As you can see at the bottom left picture, it's 3D. And then in Final Fantasy VIII, they took it a step further and made realistically proportioned characters, and then added vocal music as opposed to the previous where it was computer-generated music. Then in Final Fantasy X, they added voice acting, and Final Fantasy X Part 2 is the first sequel to any of the games. And then Final Fantasy XI was the first mass multiplayer online role-playing game. And then Final Fantasy XIII, which came out last year, was the start of a new sub-series, Fabula Nova Crystallis, which I will also discuss later on. And then recently, which just started its beta this year, was A Realm Reborn, which is just a pack for the correction pack for the second MMORPG that they created. So, pictures. So as I said about before, there was a new gameplay that Final Fantasy IV introduced, which was Active Time Battle, which meant that before in Final Fantasy I, II, and III, it was all the enemies would wait for you to start an attack before it made its own attack. But with the Active Time Battle, the computer can attack your characters without you needing to do anything. So it's going to start with or without you. So there were many sub-series. As I said before, the Fabula Nova Crystallis, and there was a compilation for Final Fantasy VII, and then there's the Valis Alliance. Within each sub-series, there were multiple games under each name, which is why I said that the first 13 main titles weren't the only games under the Final Fantasy franchise. As you can see, for the Fabula Nova Crystallis, which is fairly new, there are exactly 5 games already, and this just started 1 year ago, roughly. And then the compilation of Final Fantasy VII is probably the largest sub-series because it has 4 games and multiple films and even literature. The Valis Alliance also, it was the start of the Tactics series, and there's 4 games under it. And they're sub-series because in these specific games, they share the same world, which is like unusual in Final Fantasy games because, like I said, each game tends not to correlate with the others. So Final Fantasy 1 and Final Fantasy 2 do not continue each other. But in these ones, they're in the same world, which means that the characters, like in Lightning Returns, a character from Final Fantasy 3 and Final Fantasy 3 Part 2 come back in another game. These are pictures, like up there is the Tactics, and Surge of Cerberus, and that one's the Final Fantasy Type 0. This picture. So based off of the Final Fantasy franchise, there's also like the Dissidia, which they took the main characters from all of Final Fantasy and they brought them into a new game, which is a fighting game. But then on top of that, Square Enix decided to make they started a new franchise called Kingdom Hearts, in which they took Disney characters and Final Fantasy characters and created a new game. And Kingdom Hearts is also a very successful franchise as well. So important figures. I'm only going to talk about 3 because the other 4 are I didn't get much information, but as I said, Hironobu Sakaguchi is the designer of the very first Final Fantasy, and he continued to make more after that, and he is the guy in the center. That mustaches. Yeah, the middle one. And then Tetsuya Nomura is the creator of Final Fantasy VII, which was a big deal because it was new graphics and it was a huge thing, and everyone loved Final Fantasy VII, and so he became really famous for that. And then Nobuo Uematsu was the composer of the majority of the music, and his music has been heard worldwide. Even in the 2004 Olympics, there was a synchronized swimming where they used his music. It was pretty cool. So for the reception, as of June 2011, they counted that over 100 million units were sold worldwide. And it was ranked as one of the best-selling video game franchises up there, along with Mario and Donkey Kong and all that. In the Guinness Book of World Records, it was recorded as the most games in an RPG series. There was 13 main titles, 7 enhanced titles, and then there's 32 spin-offs. So if you add that all together, it's a lot of games under the franchise. And in 2009, in the top 50 games, 2 of their games were ranked number 8 for Final Fantasy 12, and then Final Fantasy 7 was ranked number 20, which is a pretty big deal. And these are all the characters, or not all the characters, but most of the main characters from Dissidia, which is just selecting a few